Welcome to my live stream. I'm waiting for anybody to attach and connect to this live stream. That would be great. That's what I'm looking to get. So if people get on and they want to chat, that's what I'm looking for. Anyways, let's start this one out again. To begin, I just want to state the fact that I'm looking for people to join my channel, to become members of my channel. If you can do so, that'd be fantastic. I'm looking to build up my channel to get basically compensation activated on YouTube, and that requires 1,000 subscribers. So if you can join my channel, become a subscriber, that would be fantastic. On top of that, there's another requirement, which is watch time on YouTube, and I believe it's like 3,000 hours of watch time. And if you could do that, that would be great too. I would really love for people to watch my channels, watch my videos on my channel, and get informed on what I'm trying to do. So again, if you can join and watch, that would be fantastic. Now, to get back to the topic, again, we're going to be continuing with our current topic, which is Donald Trump, which is interesting to talk about a person as being your topic of discussion. But that's what we're doing, and it's because obviously Donald Trump is a very... I can't think of the word I really want to use, but he's a person that everybody talks about for one reason or another. And I'd like to talk about him also, and don't so much want to sit there and talk about what I think about him. I actually really want to listen to people who actually have points about him. And I'm really looking to get people to join my channel and start conversations with me to talk about him. And again, talking about why they believe he is the right person for the duties that he's involved with, or why he's not. It'd be great to hear people's opinion and find out why things are going the way they're going. But until I get people to actually join my channel and start chatting, I'm going to continue with what I've been doing previously, which is basically just an evaluation of points that have been made about Donald Trump, and ask questions about it. Because again, everybody has an opinion about what they believe is being stated about him, and what they feel about those claims or those statements. And so that's what we're going to do. And so that's what we're going to do today. And I'm actually going to start off, and I'm going to go into ChatGPT, which you can see I'm already there right now, and I'm going to ask a question. And the question is detailed points that detail Trump claims that are not true and things he has been accused of. And it says, as a response initial for that question is, here is a relatively recent, but still incomplete, list of the major claims by Donald J. Trump that have been debunked or shown to be false or misleading, plus serious accusations and legal findings against him. Because Trump remains a highly polarizing and litigated public figure, some items remain unresolved or contested, but many have been fact-checked or adjudicated. I cover 1, false or misleading claims, and 2, accusations, lawsuits, and legal findings. It's good to see the ChatGPT, details out the points that he's trying to make in blocks or grouping. He's good at that. Okay, so false or misleading claims. First one, false claims about elections and voting machines. Trump has repeatedly alleged widespread election fraud in the 2020 U.S. presidential election, including claims that voting machine companies like Dominion Voting Systems or Smartmatic switched or deleted votes, or that they are tied to foreign governments. Example, Venezuela. Now, I've heard this multiple times, and actually this is a point that came up in my last conversation that I have about him. This one actually here stands out where they're talking about the aspects of the voting machines that have been put in place in the U.S. election process. And all the evaluation that I read about and I heard about stated the fact that these accusations are not valid, that there's a lot of, inconsistencies and incorrectness in these accusations that were not correct. I was going to say true or false, but let's just try to make it much more non-confrontational. So again, this is a good point. And again, Donald Trump has talked about this multiple times, and I'm kind of wondering, why does he believe that the 2020 election was invalid? And to be the devil's advocate with respect to countering the Trump point of view, is it completely valid to state the fact that in the 2016 election, that was illegal, that was fraudulent? Can we say that? Can we make the same claims? I don't know if they're using the election machines in 2016. I don't have the information in front of me, and I don't know if they were actually using it. I'm not a U.S. citizen, so I'm actually not clear about the specifics about how activity is occurring in the United States. Just the things that I've seen and read. But again, my point is it fair to accuse the 2016 as being invalid because Donald Trump won and you, as opposed to the person who was going up against him, didn't win? Is that I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say I'm getting myself mixed up about the elections. Where it says, "Oh no, man, he did win that one." But again, that's the whole thing I'm trying to point out. The fact is, he won in 2016, and he lost in 2020. He won again in 2024, and as I understand, the voting machines were active in 2024. So is it completely valid to state the fact that if those results are invalid in 2020, are they invalid in 2024? And the fact that if Donald won in 2024, is his win completely invalid as the 2020 election? I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from the proponents. I somewhat know with respect to the people who are proponents of Donald Trump, who maybe don't like him, find problems with him. I know they're going to say, obviously these votes, this election was completely valid, and there's nothing wrong with it. And again, all the investigation, all the legal activity that went through, came up with the 2020 election was completely valid. Nothing with respect to any kind of investigation process that went into it indicated that there was claims of fraud that occurred in that election. So again, if you're a Trump proponent and you do also believe this, that the 2020 election isn't valid, can you give concrete, precise evidence of why it's invalid, and not just stating the fact that I heard or I saw, something concrete that can be evaluated, and that a evaluation process can be done and the conclusion can be made that, hey, yes, it was invalid. And if you can provide that kind of evidence, that would be great. Just a claim, I'm sorry, I can't really accept that, because that's not really, concrete enough to accept. Okay, let's go on to the second one. Claims about his administration's tax cuts and economic performance. Trump often claimed his 2017 tax cut was the biggest tax cut in history. That is incorrect. By one measure, it is ranked far lower, not near the top historically. Donald Trump seems to be very consistent with respect to trying to promote his claimed achievements. And it comes down to the fact of, are these valid? And I've heard this type of stuff before, where he's made statements and people sat there and said, these claims have no validity at all. The second part of that statement is, similarly, he frequently describes the economy under his leadership as the greatest ever. Analysts and fact checkers note that this is a repeated exaggeration. That's a good way to put it, an exaggeration. These are questions that anybody should have, an aspect of someone saying, hey, he's doing great, okay, well, what is the information that identifies how great he's doing and why he's doing great? And again, like I said, the advocates or the people who are against Donald Trump, they're not going to dispute this, obviously. I don't really need to per se hear them say that, yes, I agree that it's invalid, because, I'm somewhat on the same line of thought anyway, so that's not something new to me. But I want to hear from the proponents. What do you think? Do you feel that, yes, everything was great under his leadership? And we're going to need to have some information, some economic information. If you know an economist or you know an economic report that produces a result that identifies that the economy under his leadership was the best, then I'd like to see that information, because again, of the economists and the people who evaluate this information, none of them has ever said that. Next one, false claims about immigration, border crossings, and crime linked to migrants. For example, he has said tens of millions illegally crossed the southern U.S. border, or that immigrants from other countries are being sent to America after being released from prisons abroad. These claims are not supported by reliable data or evidence. That comes somewhat, and again, that the aspect is he says it's occurring, and the aspect is there absolute evidence that it's occurring? Now, we do know that in the United States there is a huge number of illegal people, for lack of a better way of saying that, in the United States, illegal immigrants. We do know that. And we know why they're there in general. The United States being the biggest economy country-wise in the world, that's where people who are having difficulties in their life are going to want to go. They're going to want to go where everything is great. Says, I want to go there. I think I can have a better life there. So that's why they're doing what they're doing. Now, this aspect of saying these are all criminals. Well, This is to say there's a hell of a lot of criminals in the world, I guess, who are crossing into the United States border, and the fact that other countries are sending them. Again, if you're a proponent of Donald Trump, you believe this, we really need to see concrete information. If you can sit there and say we actually have evidence of a country that has been identified and has been validated that they are actually doing this, then we need to have that information. We need to know about it, because right now it's not really concrete at all. Misrepresenting past policies. Example, inheriting family separation. Trump has repeatedly claimed his administration simply inherited a family separation policy at the U.S.-Mexico border from his predecessor. That is false. The systematic zero-tolerance family separation policy was instituted under Trump. I heard that. Not really much more to say about that. Again, it comes down to the fact is, if you're a proponent of Trump, do you agree with that, the fact that these claims of, I think this comes down to children being removed from their parents was something that, let's say, another president did, Obama or another president. As far as I know of the reports that have been done, the news reports that I've seen, it's always been down that these activities have occurred only under Donald Trump's, regime. I say authority. I don't want to say regime. That sounds like he's running a dictatorship. I don't want to say that yet. False statements about public health and science issues. Trump has been criticized for spreading misinformation. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, he downplayed severity, promoted unproven treatments, and made misleading statements about death rates and doctors' incentives. He has also made dubious claims about climate change, inflation, and other economic indicators that contradict expert consensus or empirical data. This is something that bothers me. My mindset is somewhat from the more of the scientific realm. That's my background, is in science and such. So I look at things in that point of view. And I do remember him making statements about things that sit to say that's not true. Yes, there's no scientific validation for the statements he was making. And it seemed like it was just statements made out of the blue. And I don't know why he was doing it. I'd like to hear people's explanations of why he would do stuff like that. Unfounded claims about government overreach, unlimited presidential power. On multiple occasions, he asserted that under Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, he has the right to do whatever I want as president. Constitutional experts note that this misunderstands executive power limits. That seems kind of strange because, again, I'm saying I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a Canadian citizen, so I don't know about the details about actually what is the absolute power that the United States president has. But from history, one of the bases of the formation of the United States is that no one single person is to have absolute power. And that gets back to somewhat of the time when the United States became a separate country, was the fact that they were technically a British colony. And Britain was run by kings. And at that time, it was still in place, even though not as much as it was in the past. But even at that time, you had a person who absolutely had overall power over everything. They did. And from what I understand, and again, anybody who understands this better than I, any U.S. citizen, because you guys should know this better than I, should point out the fact that, no. The U.S. president does have that absolute power. He has 100%, authority to do whatever it is he wants to do. Now, again, from my understanding, the U.S. government was constructed under the premise that no one single person would ever have that level of power. The thing is that wrong? Or is it that maybe it's a misunderstanding of what Trump had meant? I don't know. I'd like to hear both proponents, people who can maybe point out the fact that, like he was stating things that that looked to be authoritarian based, or he was just doing things that were basically in line with U.S. constitutional authority. Persistent falsehood across many topics. According to fact-checking databases, over his presidency, Trump made tens of thousands of false or misleading statements, a pattern rather than isolated lapses. Yeah, I heard about that, and that's just a statement there. He seems to lie a lot. Now, I don't know when I was going to point this out, but I'm going to point it out now because I didn't know when I should bring it up. But I did see stories, I did hear stories about the fact of his evolution through his career, his life, and what things that he got exposed to. And from what I understand, his first, I believe, personal attorney, I forget the guy's name, apparently a very, very famous attorney in the United States, New York. Apparently, he had a lot of influence on Donald Trump about the way you should look and handle things in life in general. And one of them was, you never admit any falsehood, and you make claims with the thought that they are valid, regardless of, let's say, the validity of them. And I could say there's aspects of, let's say, all these falsehoods that people stated Donald Trump has made, and I've seen him make a lot of falsehoods, so I can't say that these are just points or question marks people putting out. I've seen him do stuff like this. That's not true. That's not a valid statement. I've heard him see it, but again, from the history that I've seen about Donald Trump directly, he actually, let's say, for lack of a better way of saying this, was trained to be able to behave that way. And it was more along the lines of saying, if you want to control things, you got to present things in a way where it is perceived you're the one in power, you're the one in control. You make a statement, and you make it with the presentation that that's a valid, true statement. Regardless of the actual facts behind it, you're making that because you want to push your point across, and you want to sit there and say, these are the things that I'm looking at, the way I'm thinking about stuff, the way I'm doing things, and the way I'm perceiving things. This is the way things are. If anybody knows any more about Trump, maybe you can bring up and point that out. Okay, so that's the end of that section. I see nobody has joined my live chat. I did post statements on the social media boards that I was doing this, and I was hoping some people would come and join. And as you can see, it doesn't look like anybody's joining. So anyway, we'll just go through the next part, and then we'll probably end things there. Accusations, lawsuits, and legal findings against Trump. These are not claims he made, rather allegations against him and cases where courts or other authorities have ruled on serious matters involving him. Okay, sexual abuse and defamation liability. In the case E. Jean Carroll versus Donald J. Trump, a jury found him liable for sexual abuse and defamation stemming from allegations that he assaulted the writer E. Jean Carroll in the mid-1990s. In 2023, the jury ordered him to pay $5 million in a related defamation suit for repeated public denials and attacks on Carroll. Another verdict awarded her $83.3 million, which was upheld on appeal in 2025. Okay. That's a straight out fact that, he was accused of sexual inconsistencies or sexual problems, and he was tried. He was obviously found guilty, and he had to pay defamation penalties for it. Business fraud, financial misrepresentations. In the civil case, New York versus Trump et al., 2023-2024, prosecutors accused his business entities of inflating property values to mislead lenders and tax authority. A trial court ordered to disgorgement of hundreds of millions in ill-gotten gains. However, in August 2025, a appeal court voided that penalty. Okay, well, looks like he was accused, but it looks like it was reversed, for lack of a better way of looking at that. Criminal conviction for falsifying business records, hush money cases. In case People versus Trump, New York, 2024, Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts for falsifying business records to conceal payments, alleged hush money to an adult film actress. The sentence was an unconditional discharge, meaning no jail time, but the conviction remains. Another one where it looks like he was found guilty. Widespread history of litigation and legal entanglements. Over decades, pre-presidency and after, Trump and his organizations have faced thousands of lawsuits, including real estate disputes, contract cases, defamation suits, tax disputes, etc. The legal background is often cited when evaluating his business and ethical record. Okay, that's not sure there was anything going on with that, just the fact that he was obviously reviewed or evaluated or legally investigated. Ongoing controversial allegations and public criticisms. Besides Carroll's case, Trump has faced multiple accusations of sexual misconduct and improper behavior, though not all have resulted in convictions or civil judgment. Again, that's just a continuation of that. The one thing that I probably point out with this, again, there's lots of stuff here, and there's lots of things that we're pointing out in that, but it seems like there's lots of falsehoods that have been accused of him, and a lot of them looks to be upheld and such, so that seems to be something concrete. There's a lot of falseness in the way he does things. There's one thing about the sexual thing, and the thing that stands out to me is this aspect of when he ran the Miss America, Miss Teen, I think it is, pageants in the United States, that he indicated the fact that he was able to go into the changing rooms of the contestants and evaluate them, review them, whatever way he looked at that or whatever way he said that. But the whole premise is he stated the fact that it was his right to be able to go in there and inspect because he was the owner of the pageants. And to me, that's really slimy. And I have to admit, for the people who are very, very big proponents, especially the very religious proponents of Donald Trump, I'm really not sure why that doesn't bother them. That someone could be that sleazy and people believe it's okay, or people accept it, especially people who are supposed to have high levels of morality. You know, I don't really see how that gets away. And I could say, if you're a religious proponent of Donald Trump, can you explain to me why this is okay? The fact that he's able to go into a dressing room of beauty pageant contestants to inspect the contestants, you know, that seems to be very, 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 improper. You know, I'd like to hear responses on that. Okay, so this last part here, why this matters, patterns and public impact, the combination of repeated false misleading claims. Okay, I think there's, yeah, I was going to read it, but again, it's just the aspect of just reiterating, the points in general that were made above. And okay, I was really anticipating people joining my live stream. Nobody's joined, so I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing it until I start getting people to absolutely join my stream when they occur, so that way I can actually have a chat with people about the topic that I want to talk about. And I didn't get anybody to join me today, so I'm going to stop things there. And if you view this video and you like what you see to some extent, you like the points that have been brought up, you like the questions that are being asked, because my channel is about asking questions. I don't want to implicitly accuse people of doing things, but I certainly want to ask questions about accusations that have been made, or statements people are making. I want to find out if I can get input from people on how they see things, why they, interpret something a certain way, why they accept things that they are seeing, or maybe they feel maybe these things are just not correct. That's a big thing now. Again, with the AI kind of, capabilities nowadays, a lot of it comes down to people saying, well, that's not true because that's not correct. That's something that never happened. And you get down to aspects and say, but we have evidence that it did happen. You go, no, it didn't happen. But again, it'd be interesting to hear, if people actually have that opinion too. Why do you have that opinion? Do you actually have validity about the opinions you have? And if you do, that'd be great. Anyways, I'm going to leave things there. If you can join my channel, fantastic. If you can watch as much of my videos as you can, that would be fantastic also. So again, I want to thank you very much for at this point in time watching my video, and I hope maybe in the future that we can have a chat.